Well, something had to go wrong. Alright, that's just a slight delay. Hello, we have a bot on our channel that's literally nothing. So, that's fun. That's fun. Let's see. Hello. I haven't fronted while streaming yet, so this will be my first time. Hi, hello. Not sure what to do. There's not an audience watching right now or anything. Should I just try and rave the world, or? Oh right, that's right. We're doing a writing stream. Yes. Right. Or writing things. Writing things. Let's see. What to write? Oh, we know. Just so we're clear, we don't normally use the program we'll be using in this. It's just that we couldn't get the program we used to write to work on our streaming software. But yes. We're going to get this up and running. Oh, of course, hold on. Oh. What are we working on? Well, what we're working on is a little something called the Toadstool Timeline. We're gonna go through everything in it, but yes, that's going to be our first thing. Let's see here. So, yes. Sorry for the quiet. I haven't done this before. I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, what we're writing today is the Toadstool Timeline. What's the Toadstool Timeline? Well, it's an alternate universe. It's alternate history, specifically about video games. It takes place in the 80s, and it's about different things. We're gonna run you through the prologue right now. Prologue. Why am I suddenly nervous? Yes, it's just reading the argument made. Here we go. The video opens to a simple beige room with a variety of posters for different horror films and toy lines. A male figure comes into the frame, dressed in a white button-up shirt along with a pair of glasses. He sighs. I have a confession to make. I'm not exactly fond of what I've done, but it was a long time ago, so I might as well share it. I was addicted to something I know I shouldn't have even started, but it was just so enticing. Also, we aren't going to say the curses that we wrote into the script. Trust us. We don't know. Anyway, but it was just so enticing. I just couldn't look away. It was so shameful I couldn't even talk about it with my friends because I knew they would have shown me like I had the goddamn plague. I should have listened to the people saying to just say no, but by the time I learned the full consequences of what I had gotten myself into, it was too late. To this day, it affects me and how I live my fucking life, and I have lost so much goddamn money to it. I know I shouldn't blame myself for it, and it happened to a shit ton of people in the 80s, but it still eats at me every fucking day. Are you happy? The man takes a swig of a green bottle labeled Rolling Rock. Yeah, I know I was. He closed his eyes for a moment as to reveal something horribly shameful. He puts a hand over his eyes. I was a Nintendo kid. James Ralph, the Angry Nostalgia Nerd, 2004. Nintendo wants to make games big again. Nintendo unveiled its latest computer system at a CES booth with dozens of players eager to try out the new console. If what the press is saying is correct and the computer's designed exclusively for playing games are a dead fad, then we doubt there would have been nearly as many players as there were clamoring over the 20 games available. Sing your heart out. Players had a good, and rather loud, time using the microphone accessory with a game that allowed for the selection of multiple well-known classic songs, including Yankee Doodle Dandy and Home on the Range. The game that allows for these songs is called Sing Along and has a selection of 25 songs. A digital backing track plays as lyrics light up as they should be sung, similar to the popular Japanese pastime of karaoke. It's nice to see some customs from another country make it overseas in a new and exciting way. On top of this, there's also another game that allows you to dance to original digital tunes with the use of another accessory, the Dance Pad. All this in a dance floor too. Nintendo plans to release their latest console under a limited run in the metropolitan area of New York. We'll publish this list as soon as we learn which retailers will sell the NES, so stay tuned. It's likely to go nationwide by early next year. The suggested retail price for the console will be $134.95, which includes the console, two wireless controllers, the microphone, the dance floor, and two games utilizing one of the accessories. Nintendo expects for there to be 18 games available at launch, all priced anywhere from $19.95 to $34.95, depending on the game's complexity and the accessories required. Additional titles are expected to release at 2 to 4 per quarter. Computer Entertainer, July 1985. The NES console launch, a look back. The NES is nearing its 30th anniversary. To celebrate, I decided to take a look back to the console's original launch titles and see how well they hold up. Without further ado, let's get started. Super Mario Bros. Probably the most well-known and well-remembered of the lineup, we had the original Super Mario Bros., a testament to Nintendo's game design philosophy and standing the test of times in terms of playability, and the ability to teach a person how to play a video game. I really don't need to go into more detail about it. You likely already know about the concise platforming, the creative enemy design, and the easy-to-understand controls. That being said, however, the story of the game, along with the original Legend of Zelda, is a bit outdated due to its reliance on the damsel in distress trope. I get that it was the 80s and stories didn't matter for many games back then, but it still rubs me the wrong way. Super Sleuth, one of the games utilizing the Zapper wand. Super Sleuth is a point-and-zap adventure game, and the one that would go on to name the genre, with a very simple story. A diamond is stolen, there are 4 suspects, and it's up to you and Detective Pauline to solve the case. Side note, I really enjoyed the detective's design, similar to her design in the 1982 Donkey Kong, except instead of a dress, it's a similarly colored trench coat. It is different from the scantily clad art in the advertising for her first game. Yikes! Your suspects include Donkey Kong, your red herring, as a quick tip, as well as a Toad, a Koopa, and a human. It's up to you to figure out who done it. It's a fun little story, though sadly getting it to work in the modern day using the wand is a challenge. Even though I miraculously have a wand that works, I also had to buy a CRT TV for it to function properly. Thankfully it's possible to use a controller, though it's a lot slower and more tedious on the NES. Still, in a pattern that repeats for most of their debut titles, this game holds up really well. Calamity Jane. Calamity Jane came with the console if you bought the version of the bundle with just the wand. All you had to do was stay quick on the draw and outmatch your opponent while pretending to be the classic folk hero the game is named after. Unlike Super Sleuth, however, using the wand in the modern day is extremely difficult. No, like Super Sleuth, however, using the wand in the modern day is extremely difficult. Unlike Super Sleuth, though, there's sadly no way to play it without the wand, meaning you're out of luck if you don't have both a working wand and a CRT TV. It's a shame too, since the game was fun, just not fun enough to be worth the trouble. Hold on. Anyways, Slingin' Sally. Slingin' Sally, at least in the States, isn't anything special. Gameplay-wise, it's a Pitfall clone and it does its job well enough. Sally herself in the version for the US is a bit generic, like to make inserting yourself into the role of a jungle explorer easier. However, the PAL and original Japanese releases of the games gave her character a much more cartoonish personality, having her act cocky and self-assured, only to find herself biting on more than she can chew. Shoot. Sorry, there was a bug on our webcam for a second. She was the Jane to George of the Jungle's Tarzan, if you will. Instead, we got a character that might as well have been Barbie in an explorer outfit, down to the blonde hair and ponytail. Ponytail. Ponytail, not ponytail. This stream's already a mess. Overall, a good game. I'm just wistful over what we could have gotten. Clue Clue Land. An oft-forgotten little title. This game is a bit like Pac-Man, but not. You play a little red creature that travels around avoiding sea anemones, I think? We spelled anemones wrong. Did we? Anemone. Anemones. Oh well. And you go around the stage making little gems appear so you can make shapes. Overall, weird little title, but it was a fun ride overall, so I can't fault it for its weird theming. Sing Along, the game that introduced many people outside of Japan to karaoke. Admittedly, there isn't much to this game aside from the technology, impressive for 85, but that's mostly because of the songs that could be included. Nintendo had to include songs they could license easily, and old nursery rhymes or folk tunes or folk songs didn't even need to be licensed. Therefore, when I gathered some friends to play this game, we were jamming out to classic 80s hits like Old MacDonald and Farmer in the Dell. Still, it's a good amount of songs, 25, and there's a quirky charm to singing Jingle Bells as an 8-bit Santa rides across your TV screen. Plus, there was a good amount of different bootleg games that had actual hits on there. So, while not exactly high quality, you could sing Michael Jackson's Beat It to an 8-bit backing track if you went to the right stores. Overall, fun experience, but it definitely won't replace an actual karaoke bar anytime soon. Steeplechase. A little fun fact about the development of this one. Originally, this was going to be a game about motorbiking, but it was redesigned last minute to be about horse racing. I mention this because while the whole game is unintentionally hilarious because of that, misread that line. Because you can just ram the other racers off the track, skipped a few lines. Hold on. Sorry, I just need some water. This is doing a number on our throats. It's a good game, but it's clear they didn't change any of the actual programming to go with it aside from the visuals and sound effects. How can I tell? Because you can just ram the other racers off the track, something that makes sense on a motorbike track, not so much in a horse race. Then again, there are unique sprites for the racers being driven off the track, so either they just decide not to change the base programming out of not wanting to put in the extra effort, or because they thought it would be funny. Either way, I appreciate them for it. If you can't play this yourself, I highly recommend watching videos of it online, so it's just the right combination of laughter-worthy and kinda cool. It definitely helps that it's genuinely a really good game. Pinball. Not much to say about this one. It's pinball, but with the Nintendo seal quality. It's a decent enough title, but entirely skippable. Ice Climbers. Another game that doesn't need an introduction. Ice Climbers is another classic from the NES library. You play as Popo or Nana as they jump up higher and higher, finding polar bears and topies just so they can get home. It's simple, it's fun, it's adorable, not much else to say really. Always worth a revisit. Golf. Similar to pinball, it's just a Nintendo version of the classic game of golf. The player character looks similar to Swinging Sally, but that's really all there is to note. It's golf, but more can you expect than what you get, especially in the NES era. Another skippable entry. Again, it's tennis. The player characters look like Sally again, except they have different hair and skin colors. And Sally already looks like Barbie, so not in a great spot in terms of having a unique identity. It's decent tennis, and aside from Mario's referee, there's not much here either. Donkey Kong and Mario Bros. I put these together because I already reviewed the arcade versions of both, along with a lot of Nintendo's other hits for the arcade, like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out for Donkey Kong's anniversary a few years back. My opinion of them, both classic games for the arcade that are unique even to this day, remains unchanged. The NES ports of the new games, while not as good as the arcade version, still hold their own today. However, later ports of the two would be much better, so I wouldn't recommend the NES version as your main ways to play. Seekaboo. This game came with the version of the console that had all of the accessories. It uses both the microphone and the wand. The most notable thing about this title is that it introduces the Boos, Nintendo's little ghost-shaped enemies they use in a number of different games, to the world. This segment is going to be a bit longer one, because this is actually 3 different games in one. The first is Hide and Seek, where you explore a haunted house, zapping arrows with a wand in order to move around. You find messages the Boos leave behind and use them as clues to find where they're hiding. If you hear them laugh, that means you're just 1 room away. But be careful, pick the wrong room and the Boo will move to another room. Once you find the Boo, you have to zap them multiple times to catch them. Lots of replay value with this mode. Though, much like the other wand games, it's hard to play today. Thankfully, much like Super Sleuth, you can use a controller in this mode, though you can kiss most of your chances to catch a Boo goodbye. The second is Peekaboo, which is much simpler. It's whack-a-mole, but in a graveyard and with a zapper. You're on a time limit, and with each level you get through the timer gets shorter and more Boos appear, making this a fun, practically endless challenge. Sadly, much like Hide and Seek, it's hard to get a working wand, and unlike Hide and Seek, there's no option to use a controller. Finally, you have Scare and Scare Alike, which uses the microphone. The goal is to scare the Boos before they scare you. To do this, you have to lure them out first. The microphone checks to see if everything's quiet. After a while, the Boos will slowly reveal themselves. Once they're in clear view, you scare them by yelling into the microphone, which I'm sure was an absolute joy for parents at the time to deal with. But of course, wait too long and the Boos will spook you. It's not as in-depth as the other two, but it's a fun little bonus. All in all, probably the best game to use the wand or the microphone, at least amongst the debut titles. Dance. This title came with... Weird. This title came with every iteration of the NES that came with the dance pad. In hindsight... Oof. We're not paying you money. In hindsight, this game would go on to inspire modern dance games. That being said, all the games, it's the most poorly aged. Not because of the game itself or the songs, 10 original and all great, but because of the dance pad itself. It has 4 arrows where you put your feet to the rhythm, and in the center is the start button, with no A or B buttons. The start button being in the center is a pain because it doubles as a pause button, and you sometimes end up stepping on it by mistake. And when I unpause it, some notes just get missed through no fault of my own. I'm honestly not even sure the game even needs a pause button, but I digress. The gamepad severely inhibited the fun factor of this title. A side note, and I'm not sure if this is just my dance pad having problems or not, but the pad didn't always work properly. I guess it's due to age and people not caring for it. No wonder why. Waitress. Finally get to my personal favorite of the games, Waitress. Gameplay-wise, it's very similar to Tapper in that you're constantly serving drinks to customers across multiple bars, though it does have more in the way of level of progression. These were typos we fixed in the final version. But I thought you knew much introduced to the main character, but I love her to bits. Why is the word cool randomly in there? But I absolutely love her to bits, so I'm talking about her anyways. Wanda Waitley is just a lovely character design. No, it's this. She has frizzy red hair and a typical pink waitress outfit you would see in a 50s diner or at a Sonic restaurant, as well as a pink visor. My favorite thing about her design, though, are the bags under her eyes. She always has them whenever she appears, and even her sprite has them. It's not much, but it helps her stand out in a world where a lot of female characters back then had to look picture perfect to be marketable. On top of that, she has a cartoony personality like I wish Sally had kept in the US. Wanda always seemed to be tired and overworked. The screen between levels had her waken up by her boss, Beatrice, yet she always genuinely wanted to be helpful and enjoyed her job as a waitress. Despite how silly she is, and in parts because of it, that in and of itself is sort of inspiring. The fact that the game itself has an addicting playstyle with nice, colorful graphics is just icing on the cake, or more fittingly, the whipped cream and cherry on the milkshake. Conclusion. Overall, the NES has a mostly well-aged library with only a single bad game among them, and even then that was mostly due to the accessory, not the game itself. Overall, you can see why the NES was such a smash hit among its target audience, and why I say it still holds up to this day. Anita Sarkeesian, 2015, for SmittenByBits.com. Footage of classic Nintendo games begin to play, including Super Mario Bros., Waitress, and Ice Climbers, as the nerd narrates. Like many kids, my parents got my sister an NES for Christmas, and like many more, I was drawn to the allure of it and began, shock of all shocks, playing games with my sister. It was a really fun bonding experience, and looking back through the eyes of today, there was nothing wrong with it. These were truly games for everyone, and it's only due to marketing decisions that there was ever a divide to begin with. Unfortunately, for me, I got into it before I discovered the horrible truth, and it's something a lot, and it's something that's a bit hard to believe in the modern day. It definitely beat the ever-loving shit out of my social life back then, and I'll tell you that much. The NES was made for girls. Interviewer. Alright, so that was also from the same Angry thing. Interviewer. So explain to me, Mr. Arawaka, why did Nintendo decide to market the NES to girls, especially when arcades were primarily made up of boys at the time? Minoru Arakawa. Well, part of it was due to the kinds of games Nintendo makes. Many arcade games were and are very competitive or violent. A lot of games are shooters and military simulators or based around generic sports such as racing or American football. Nintendo, meanwhile, wanted to make more games such as Pac-Man or Centipede, or our own Donkey Kong and Mario Bros. Pac-Man in particular was more popular among girls than boys, which is why Nintendo eventually made Miss Pac-Man, which is why Namco eventually made Miss Pac-Man, a game that was even more successful. By focusing our console market on girls, we can still make games for the arcade marketed towards boys instead of making gaming as a whole into a boys-only club. There are consequences to that, but we didn't really have much of a choice. Right, because you had to sell the NES in the toy aisle. Yes, that's correct. We didn't have confidence in selling the NES in the home computer market akin to most other consoles, so we decided marketing as a toy at first. would allow us to put our foot in the door, so to speak. Of course, in America, there wasn't a gender-neutral aisle for toys, so we had to choose between the two segregated sections. We originally had our eyes set on marketing to boys, and we already worked on a few games and projects with that in mind. Calamity Jane, for example, was originally going to be called Wild Gunman, and there was originally going to be an accessory that was a little robot friend. However, we soon saw both the success of Namco's more gender-neutral games in hindsight, and at the time the decision was influenced by an unlikely source, Cabbage Patch Kids. The frenzy over those things, as well as the success of many other toys marketed towards girls, convinced us that we should choose the toy aisle. The girls aisle. We had to scrap a few games we had in development, mostly just sports titles, but I think the success we maintained speaks for itself, don't you? Interview with Yoko Arakawa, Livewire Magazine, 1997. Some footnotes. Footnote number 1. Let's see here. Removing the angry video game nerd from a timeline entirely is to the internet what removing Stand By Me would be for movies. If it's not what the timeline is about, it will completely derail everything you're trying to do. Of course, nobody makes it out of a timeline completely unchanged. Well, almost nobody. Oh, right, this model can't wink. Oh, okay. Uh, Hold on. Oh no. Sorry, you have to check on something. Give us a second. Sorry. We just realized that we're a bit quiet in the stream. Okay. Okay, that was the Okay. Ugh. Something crawled onto our foot. Ugh. Okay. Mic's working. The computer microphone is working. Hold on. Let's try and reconnect our actual microphone. Maybe there's just an issue with it. Well, our microphone. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, hold on. Sorry, this is peaking the mic. Hold on. Just like with every word we're saying, it's peaking the mic. Oh. Right, right. Okay, microphone's working. Microphone is on. Oh, of course, we turned it down too low. Putting it back to where it was. Come on, we can't. Oh, we just weren't talking. This is embarrassing. All things considered, this is embarrassing. Uh, we checked everything too. Microphone was working fine. We checked the audio on that. It was working fine. Guess we should have checked it with the background ambience. Okay. Okay. Oh. At the very least, the stream can now continue. That was... Okay, thankfully, there was no one around to see that. Oh, Mike keeps speaking. Thankfully, there was no one around to see that. Alright, good. Good, good, good. That just means that we'll have humiliated ourselves for people who rewatch this in the future. Great. Look, I don't really know what to do here. Just, we took all the proper precautions and our computer still let us down. Ugh, like, why, why does our microphone just randomly not work? Why? Laptop mic probably does the job well enough, but this is supposed to do the job better. You just stop. Oh, we're idiots. Hold on. You see, our microphone has a button on the top. That button portrays a little microphone with a cross on it. Can you guess what that does? Can you guess what that does? Because we can guess what it does. Never mind. Never mind. We thought we were just being idiots, but nope. Nope. Just genuinely, I just wants to screw us over right now. Uh, we hope this comes across as charming rather than what it is. Humiliating. There's nothing wrong with doing something embarrassing, especially early on, but we should. Uh, it's weird to say. Alright, so you probably didn't hear it because of the bad audio quality, but earlier I said that I technically haven't I technically haven't streamed before. You know? Technically. Like obviously you can why does this mic keep peaking? Uh let's turn it down some. That better? That's better. No. 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 It still peaks the mic because it doesn't change how it's being received. Why is our voice a bit gravelly? Please tell us you didn't hear that gulping. But yeah, we're running low on water. Well, we have a means to water, which is there's a faucet back there, but it's not right. Yeah, okay. I'm an alter who's never streamed before, so if this stream feels awkward, that's why. Uh, yes. Okay. Give us a moment to do something real quick. There's no audio playing, so we can just turn off our headphones, which are starting to get a bit uncomfortable. Hold on. We have to do click a little something before we continue. We have not done our Duolingo today. Yeah. So yes, that's something to keep in mind. Sorry, I just don't know what to say. We're just going to do our Duolingo real quick before continuing the stream. For entertainment purposes, you can watch us do that. And then afterwards, we get to writing. Let's see. Chisai. 日本とアメリカ 聞いて
それはアメリカですか？
それはアメリカですか？
アメですか？
Okay.
アメリカは
アメリカは大きいです。アメリカは大きいです。
これはアメリカです。これはアメリカです。これで
これはアメリカです。Okay.
日本で
Just
すか？
looking up. 日本ですか? Thank you.
大きいです。
大きいです。
で
大きいです。
大きい。
大きい。大きい。
アメリカは大きいですか？
アメリカは大きいですか？アメリカは大きいですか？
大きいですか？
大きいですか？大きいですか？
それはちですか？
それは小さいですか？
日本は小さいですか？
日本は小さいですか？日本は小さいです。日本は小さいです。小さいです。It keeps missing the register that we're saying the I in 小さい.日本は小さいですか？日本は小さいですか？ Alright, there we go. Continued our streak. Got one of our quests done. I used all these sound effects. Sheesh, both our friend streaks are delaying longer than they normally do. Alright, then again, so do we. Yeah. If you want to know our Duolingo score, keep in mind most of it is from us learning Irish, not Japanese. We just recently started Japanese. But it's 1,416, including streak freezes, of course. Learning streak freezes. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyways, writing. Writing. We are 45 minutes into the writing stream, and we have not written. Look, okay. Not sure. Just feels awkward. Everything does. Yes. We should. We were reading through what we were writing at first, but microphone's shit. So, all right. So this story is available on alternatehistory.com. We posted the first chapter already. If you want to know what the alternate history is, well, we're just there's a whole story here. We don't want to spoil it because we like to view it as just a nice hook that you learn halfway through the first the prologue. But the gist of it is that Nintendo in the 80s had a problem. The video game industry was tanking hard. Well, well, in most of the world it was doing fine, but in America, which had one of the biggest market shares, it was floundering. But Nintendo had a plan to get the consoles out of the gutter. See, it was marketed as a toy. Market the console as a toy. That's why we have the NES Zapper and Rob the Robot. It was so that they could sell the darn thing in various toy stores, in the toy aisle, where they belong. Not really, but that was how you got it through the door, through kids who wanted to see new experiences. And of course, they made sure to avoid all the pitfalls of of what caused the video game crash in 1983 to begin with. False false advertising was a big one, so a lot of Nintendo's games often showed their actual graphics right in the cover art. At least for the debut titles. So, uh, so, mm, so there was still consequences that we're still seeing to this day. Namely, that video games became something that was marketed for children up until the 2000s, through a combination of both companies like Xbox and PlayStation targeting to older audiences specifically, and Nintendo deciding to market it to the whole family. Video games became something that was considered to be just another medium, like film, like television, like books, just a medium of art, which is how it should be viewed. Of course, there was another issue, which this timeline is about, and it's about the other choice that could have happened during that issue. Actually, let's just read through this again. Even if you read through it at the beginning of the stream, you might want to just hear us read it. The Toadstool Timeline. Prologue. The video opens to a simple beige room with a variety of posters for different horror films and toy lines. A male figure comes into frame dressed in a white button-up shirt along with a pair of glasses. He sighs. I have a confession to make. I'm not exactly proud of what I've done, but it was a long time ago, so I might as well share it. I was addicted to something. I know I shouldn't have even started. It was just so fucking enticing. I just couldn't look away. It was so shameful I couldn't even talk about it with my friends because I knew they would have shunned me like I had the goddamn plague. I should have listened to the people saying to just say no, but by the time I learned the full consequences of what I got myself into, it was too late. To this day, it affects me and how I live my fucking life. And I have lost so much goddamn money to it. I know I shouldn't blame myself for it, and I have to a shit ton of people in the 80s, but it still eats at me every fucking day. The man takes a swig of a green bottle labeled Rolling Rock. Yeah, I know, I was. He closes his eyes for a moment, as if to reveal something horribly shameful. He puts a hand over his eyes. I was a Nintendo kid. James Ralph, The Angry Nostalgia Nerd, 2004. Nintendo wants to make games big again. Nintendo unveiled its latest computer system at a CES booth with dozens of players eager to try out the new console. If what the press is saying is correct and computers designed exclusively for playing games are dead bad, then we doubt there would have been nearly as much players as there were clamoring over the 20 games available. Sing your heart out. Players had a good and rather loud time using the microphone. Bleh. Sorry, our voice is getting tired. Ugh. We gave it plenty of rest before the streams. I'm not sure what's going on there. Players had a good and rather loud time using the microphone accessory with a game that allowed for the selection of multiple well-known classic songs, including Yankee Doodle Dandy and Home on the Range. The game that allows for these songs is called Sing Along and has a selection of 25 songs. A digital backing track plays as lyrics light up as they should be sung, similar to the popular Japanese pastime of karaoke. It's nice to see some customs from another country make it overseas in a new and exciting way. On top of this, there's also another game that allows you to dance to original digital tunes with the use of another accessory, the dance pad. All this in a dance floor too. Nintendo plans to release their latest console under a limited run in the metropolitan area of New York. We'll publish a list as soon as we learn which retailers will sell the NES, so stay tuned. It's likely to go nationwide by early next year. The suggested retail price for the console will be $134.95, which includes the console, 2 wireless controllers, the microphone, the dance floor, and 2 games utilizing one of the accessories. Nintendo expects for there to be 18 games available at launch, all priced anywhere from $19.95 to $34.95, depending on the game's complexity and the accessories required. Additional titles are expected to release at 2 to 4 per quarter. Computer Entertainer, July 1985. The NES console launch, a look back. Yep, figured as much. Ugh. Sorry, we need to take a slight break. Seriously, what's up with our voice? Our throat, at the very least. Let's just drink some water. You know, for water, this stuff isn't quenching our thirst very well. Ignore that. Hmm. We should probably turn the thunderstorm music back on. What's this? When did we click this? We must have done it by accident. Huh. Let's just do this, turn the volume way down on this. That way, when there's silence, it's not going to be dead air. Damn it! Okay, hold on. Right. Turn off the music player. Okay, thank you. Okay. Wait, what? Wait, have we used this before? Because we definitely... We must have used it as an alternative to like Google Docs or something at some point. Because we remember we made that for like a birthday stream some years ago. Back before like the Fire Nation attack or whatever. We should just get to the writing. So we're just gonna skip ahead. Most of these are reviews of the song. Reviews of the different games that released with this new NES. There's special credit to a few of these games, like Seekaboo was... The concept of it was made by another person, who we're just going to see. Taco Master. Yes, that's who came up with it. This is the chapter we're working on, Chapter 1. This is just the prologue. So let's skip ahead to the next time that the nerd speaks. But of course, first, let's say, go to the stinger here. This article here is written by Anita Sarkeesian for a fictional website. What are the classic Nintendo games we begin to play, including Super Mario Bros., Waitress, and Ice Climbers, as the nerd narrates. Like many kids, my parents got my sister an NES for Christmas, and like many more, I was drawn to the allure of it and began, shock of all shocks, playing games with my sister. It was a really fun bonding experience, and looking back through the eyes of today, there was nothing wrong with it. These were truly games for everyone, and it's only through the marketing decisions that throws over the divide to begin with. We cut to the nerd's face, who is looking distraught. Unfortunately for me, I got into it before I discovered the horrible truth, and it's something that's a bit hard to believe in the modern day. It definitely beat the ever-loving shit out of my social life back then, I'll tell you that much. The NES was made for girls. And there we go. So explain to me, Mr. Arakawa, why did Nintendo decide to market the NES to girls, especially when arcades are primarily made up of boys at the time? Were primarily made up of boys at the time. Well, part of it was due to the kind of... Minoru Arakawa says, well, part of it was due to the kind of games Nintendo makes. Many arcade games were, and are, very competitive or violent. A lot of games are shooters or military simulators, or based around generic sports such as racing or American football. Nintendo, meanwhile, wanted to make more games such as Pac-Man or Centipede, or our own Donkey Kong and Mario Bros. Pac-Man in particular was more popular among girls than boys, which is why Namco, we made that mistake earlier too, which is why Namco eventually made Miss Pac-Man, a game which was even more successful. By focusing our console market on girls, we can still make games for the arcade marketed towards boys instead of making gaming as a whole into a boys-only club. There were consequences to that, but we didn't really have much of a choice. Right. And the interviewer says, right. You had to sell the NES in the toy aisle. Minoru Arakawa. Yes, that's correct. We didn't have confidence in selling the NES in the home computer market akin to most other consoles, so we decided marketing it as a toy at first will allow us to put our foot in the door, so to speak. Of course, in America, there wasn't a gender-neutral aisle for toys, so we had to choose between two segregated sections. Thanks, Reagan's America. The AIDS crisis accelerating the Cold War, and just generally being an awful piece of shit. And on top of that, you make the game worse. Good job. Moral maturity, but we originally had our eyes set on marketing to boys, and we already worked on a few games and projects with that in mind. Calamity Jane, for example, was originally going to be called Wild Gunman, and there was originally going to be an accessory that was a little robot friend. However, we soon saw both the success in Namco's more gender-neutral games in hindsight, and at the time the decision was influenced by an unlikely source. Cabbage Patch Kids. The frenzy over those things, as well as the success of many other toys marketed towards girls, convinced us we should choose the toy aisle. Choose the boys aisle. The girls aisle. Choose the girls aisle. We, we probably corrected that. We had to scrap a few games we had in development, mostly just sports items, but I think the success we've maintained speaks for itself, don't you? Interview with Yoko Erica. Uh, yeah, we fixed this in the final version, we know that much. But still want to fix it here. No, no. It's not what we do. 9 exactly. There we go. Claims mentions games failed. 17, but we chalked it up to being mistaken for some video games only. Oh, we would like to apologize to the writer of this article in Computer Entertainer for making this timeline's butchered karaoke this much. Karaoke! Karaoke was gaining traction in the States by the 80s, but it's safe to assume that not everyone knew what it was. Fun fact, karaoke we think was not invented in Japan. It was in another Asian country. I forget which one it was. It was either... was it Korea? It was either the Philippines or Vietnam. One of those. Dance Pad is based off Power Pad, which the microphone is based off Famicom controllers often had a microphone built in our timeline. Just as well, Bandai built a microphone for the Famicom in Japan, but it never really made it to the States. Due to our point of distance, Nintendo decided to partner with Bandai earlier to make both this and Dance Pad debut with the NES in the US. This timeline's version of the Power Pad, also made with Bandai. It's slightly more expensive. Alright, heavily opinionated footnote and comment. We'll just come out and say it. Anita did not deserve the hate she got. All she did was apply basic, bare minimum feminist theory to video games. Oh, that actually affected. Sorry, our hotkeys for our expressions affected the. Anyways. Bare minimum feminist theory to video games and not finish a game. That was all it took in 2014 to 2016 to cause people's heads to explode, we guess. We're not saying she was a saint or anything, and yeah, she could be annoying at times, but the outright hatred for her mostly, not entirely, but mostly, was rooted in sexism. Thankfully, due to our point of distance, Anita gets to avoid what would become Gamergate, as well as some of what would cause her to create feminist frequency in the first place. As such, she's just your average game journalist in this timeline. She's still a feminist, make no mistake. You should bring up similar issues if it arises. It's just not what she's known for. Maru Akawa. Minoru Arakawa was the president of Nintendo of America at the time. Which is what? Yeah, so Nintendo was brought into the boys' aisle in our timeline, which, like, gaming was considered male-oriented for decades. It only recently shook off that stigma just a decade, less than a decade ago. Livewire is the butterfly named Wired magazine. This footnotes the five games unchained at the time as having potential. Yes. So, we're writing this. We're finished with a bit of it, but we've only just started. I guess it's time to actually start. A young girl is seen reading a book in her room when suddenly her TV screen begins to glow. She glances at the screen and her jaw opens agape as a venture gear for a safari flies out of the TV. Suddenly the girl is dressed in a stereotypical safari outfit. A green vine places itself to the girl's hand as she gives a slight smile toward the camera. Let Nintendo make your imagination soar. The girl slinks away from the screen as the box for Slingin' Sally, along with a game console, appears behind her. Text suddenly appears on the screen and it reads, Nintendo. Pop and play. It's no playing with power, but it works. Modern one. Most of the early games seemed gender neutral, at least to me, but back when the NES first released, things were a lot different. That's right, the girls launched with two players, so my sister wanted someone to try out a Christmas gift with her. Our parents were too busy and I didn't know how video games work, so I had to step up to the task. I expected to feel like, I don't know, when your parents force you to play with your sister using their toys, all girly and shit. I was expecting a prissy little character to pop on screen and ask if I wanted tea. Instead, I got Super Mario Bros. And Ice Climbers, games that are considered classics by Nintendo fans to this day. Both were just easy to pick up and understand, and Ice Climbers especially was great for classic sibling banter. But of course, there was a problem. It was seen as girly by everyone else, or at least that's what it seemed like. If you were a boy and said, hey, I like the NES, you might as well come out as gay. The views of this alternate history angry video game nerd do not reflect us nor the actual James Ralph's opinions. I need to keep my damn mouth shut because if anyone found out, I was fucked. Even back here, don't like saying that word. The secret, don't ask. That a shitload of people who you knew were also Nintendo fans. At least some of the ones who had sisters. Just that no one would admit it. Why the hell would they? They had no idea I would have rat them out. And the kids were making fun of another kid for the sheer irredeemable crime of liking Mario. I would have to at least pretend to laugh along with them if you being found out. It was agony, I tell you. Pure fucking agony. You take a slick from a bottle of Rolling Rock. We forgot we wrote that, but we could just picture that immediately afterwards. My god, I guarantee there isn't a single guy on the planet that got out of Nintendo shadows scot-free. Hey y'all, Scott here. Sorry we find that funny. We apologize. Thing about Scott the Woz is that Scott the Woz, we just decided to make him almost entirely the same as in our timeline. Both because he's likely to have come into gaming right around when gaming becomes more gender neutral and second is we just thought it would be funny if Scott the Woz happened to be exactly the same. Like we're saying in like the footnote, but like if video games didn't exist, Scott the Woz would invent them just so he could have something to bitch about. I was having a little trouble coming up with what to talk about today, but then I saw my trash can and went, oh yeah, I guess I could talk about computer games. Computer gaming! Some people are into it, some people are also into eating pets. Doesn't mean I like it. We're trying our best to channel Scott the Woz here. I've always been the kind of guy who uses computers for business and consoles for pleasure. But some people like having everything all in one place, which is why I put my egg cartons into my sock drawer. Many also swear by the idea that a computer will always have better graphics because you can always get the most up-to-date software to run it on. And while I might not like to play video games on non-console software, I at least get that some games have control schemes that just wouldn't make sense on a console, like super complex ones or ones that need a mouse. Now, I don't want to just spend this video dogpiling on computer games being wrong, even though they are, so I want to take a look at computer games throughout history, starting in the 1960s, what known as Section 7 cut for brevity. Like, we didn't want to write Scott the Woz just right talking about actual computer history. And like, it would make sense for the in-universe video, so we just cut that up. Before Nintendo hit the scene and after the game market crashed, gaming on your home computer was the place to be. Unless, of course, you lived in an arcade, in which case, gaming at your local arcade was the place to be. However, many people still wanted to play a game in the comfort of their own home, and without losing $30 worth of quarters to Frogger. Instead, they wanted to spend $30 up front for unlimited Frogger. Now that is what we in the business call economics, more cut for brevity. Then Nintendo hit the scene in 1985, definitively bringing back games to your home. If you were a pussy. Nintendo at the time was marketing to girls, since they needed a way to bring the toy out to avoid the whole video games are dead thing. But the NES ended up helping games a whole in the long run. A lot of ways getting jealous about not having a home console. Would reject. Really Nintendo games. Such feminine things as overweight plumbers. There's in ghost hunting, referring to one of the fictional games made up by Taco Master for this timeline. Instead, boys want games available. So they would go to their PCs to play certified classics like fucking Starflight. And then we have a picture of Starflight ready for you to see. That's the background. Okay. Let's add an image source. Browse gallery. Okay, apparently we have screenshots of us absolutely demolishing Nubby's Number Factory. I just played that for the first time today. Again, being a system is weird. But yeah. Sorry, we have to sift through a lot of photos because we have a hobby of making custom Magic the Gathering cards. So we have a lot of screenshots for things like art for those cards. So we have to just sift through it. Hope we can find it. Nope. We'll probably just re-download it real quick. Thankfully, we know exactly where that photo is. Actually, we're not sure if we downloaded it. Nope, we didn't. Oh, come on. A WebP file? Those don't work. This is an image that's going to be posted alongside the actual article. As you can see, this game looks absolutely stellar for its time. For its time. Let's see here. Right, turn that off. Okay. 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 Starlight is, to this day, considered a classic. Sure, it hasn't aged all that great unless you like the sound of electronic screaming and Geiger counters. But it was ahead of its time in a number of ways, mostly in terms of its storytelling and how it used different planets as precursor to open world gaming. How much it influenced later computer games, not to mention the multiple endings. No two games played exactly the same. When it played, yeah, well, this game's a powerhouse in terms of what it would go on to aspire, no doubt. Playing it today is a slug. It's so slow. It sounds like what happens in my dreams when I eat too much cheese before bed. If I don't have my nightly block of cheese, I will die. And it barely has graphics, so yeah, big hit for the time. Playing it today is abysmal. Thankfully, this game has a far more positive impact than its actual gameplay. It inspired a number of games that can aim after it, and this is where we're gonna get stuck. Because we have to find out, like, butterflied names for, like, different sci-fi games. And just to be clear, we should add this as a footnote. Abysmal. We should add this as a footnote. Most of the critics. Most of what's got the one. True. To a less pronounced extent. To a less pronounced extent in our timeline. In our timeline, it's going to be abbreviated to this because the website we're on has default abbreviations for these sort of things. is spelled more strongly. But it's... You would not use it in this... You would not use this in this case. That's a possessive. Not a contraction. Not a possessive. That's a contraction. What's a contraction? Well, it's the shortening of a word. Wait, I forget the exact definition used. Yeah, we did. Its influence is felt more. We should just make up fictional butterfly names for like games like Half-Life, such as let's look at the development of Mass Effect because that's probably going to be the biggest. Perhaps the Mass Effect fandom wiki has trivia. The opening call text at the beginning of the game is referenced similar to the opening call text in the movie Top Gun. The original game was first developed under the working title SFX about a year and a half after the initial IP pitch on September 15, 2003. The team debated several names like Space Age, Element Zero, Threshold, Epsilon Effect. Epsilon Effect sounds good. Star Citadel, Fractured Helix, and Oculon. That's a lot of good options. Okay, we're glad we picked that. We're just gonna pick one we like. Epsilon Effect, sure. Now, realistically, in a pop culture alternate timeline, the butterfly effect would be in full force. Pop culture timelines are the most vulnerable to this sort of thing. Oh, right. None. 14. Oh, whoops. Whoops. Oh, right, and unbold. There we go. Epsilon effect. We could also go with Oculon. After, great, after we went through all that trouble, we're just going to settle with Oculon. Of course we are. Hold on, we gotta fix our model real quick. Model fixed. Okay. Fun. Good. Great. Fantastic. Salon? Is that how you would spell? Oculon. Oculon. Alright. Now we're also looking to Half-Life since that's another. Alright. Development of Half-Life timeline. Valve was founded by two Microsoft veterans, Katie Newell and Mike Harrington, in Kirkland, Washington in December 4, 1996. Quake Engine license was acquired from ID Software. At first, Valve assumed they would be developing their own technology. The production began on a shooter codenamed Quiver, inspired by Stephen King's novella The Mist and Doom. Interesting combo. The production began on Valve's second game, Prospero. Let's see. Prospero, which is a game that never released. Oh, we could do something very funny. Yeah, we think we're gonna do that, actually. We think we're going to. Prospero. Now we have to do some research into Prospero. We'll use like instead of such as because it's more, it's less formal. And we'll just make up a game. We'll just make up a sort of a shovelware style game. Hey, Maury. Why did I say it like that? Hello. For some parallel play? Oh, what do you mean by that? Oh, there's stream delay. Okay. Sorry. I'm new to the streaming thing, but it's weird to say because you've probably seen us in a few streams. Hello, we just started writing in this writing stream about 10 minutes ago. Parallel play? Parallel play. Are you playing a video game while watching this? Very nice. We're gonna look at the term real quick, actually. Parallel play. When playing with children, do not interact with each other but engage in the same activity side by side. Oh, that's nice. Okay. Should have been on. Oh, trying to figure out Vroid. Very nice. It is a tricky one to sift through, yeah. As you can see, we're not exactly experts in it, because you can see what our you can see our buttons here are just clearly drawn on. I can't believe you got that out of it. Yeah, We're writing for our alternate timeline. We told you about it. Our alternate history. The one where Nintendo starts marketing video games to girls instead of boys. So we're working on that on stream. If you're wondering about the text here, Oculon is a potential work in progress name for Mass Effect, which we're using because that's an interesting butterfly. Uh, and Prospero was another game separate from Half-Life that was in development before Half-Life took it over. Let's see. So we think it would be very fun if Prospero became Valve's first big game. Now we're going to have to do some reading on it. We're reading this from the combinedOverWiki.net. Work on Prospero began in late 1996, sometime after Valve Software was founded. The game was to emphasize exploration, an intricate storyline, and combat via psionic powers. Influences would have included the video game Myst and the works of George Louis Borges. George Louis Borges. Short story writer, essayist, poet, and translator regarded as a key figure in Spanish language and international literature. Oh, his best-known works, Viconis, translated fictions, and El Aleph, translated The Aleph. Okay. Our collection of short stories exploring motifs such as dreams, labyrinths, chance, infinity, archives, mirrors, fictional writers, and mythology. Borges' works have contributed to philosophical literature and the fantasy genre, and have had a major influence on the magical realist movement, late century Latin American literature. That's a fun influence to have. That's a fun influence to have on your video game. Why wasn't this released? Was the librarian, Aleph, or Aleph Null, as the character was one of a set, underwent a series of design changes during the early development of the game. One iteration relied heavily on the use of psionic amplifiers to augment her innate abilities. Another character named Miranda was created by Les Betterley, who was an artist on Prospero's team and was just coming up with art to get the creativity started. As stated by Mark Laidlaw, the character must have come from the original Prospero concept, which predated his arrival, as he didn't know anything of it. The concept art shows her wearing a lambda tattoo on the left arm, a symbol which eventually ended up being the Half-Life series logo. Les Betterley said it was his influence and not something required. Moreover, Mark Laidlaw stated that it was never a Prospero logo. Prospero is the Italian, Portuguese, and Spanish version of the first name Prosper, which comes from the Roman name Prosperus, which means prosperous, fortunate, or successful in Latin. Really? The prosperous means prosperous? Wow, it's the difference of one whole letter, the letter O. Great job, language. Hit the showers. Maury left. Whatever, we're gonna act like he's still here. uh, Prospero seems interesting news. This was cancelled, unfortunately. And it was a third-person action adventure shooter. It was eventually turned into multiplayer after a while. I think Prospero might be a good butterfly. That's a fun one, we think. Like, likely the influence from Kings. And for the third one, we're gonna come up with something comedic. Nick, Oculon, Prospero, and Sippy's Nut Dash. Okay, maybe not that last one. Okay. Border. Border. Brother sister duo. Um, let's see. 7. Oculon. Potion of Mass Effect. Alter name. I'm pretty sure we have dyslexia at this point. We'll have to talk with our doctor about it at our next appointment, which should be in like 10 days. An alternate name for this timeline's version of Mass Effect. When it gets that far. Gets that far in time. Just the show working. Rolling gag. So much things. Somewhere to playing Smash. Come on, Prospero and Zippy's not. Oh, one hell of a list. Need to find it. Alright, so we have a list from Den of Geek of various different PC games. Of course, most of them are for games that were released before our point of dissonance or well after it. Sim City. Maniac Mansion was 1987, which is just a year or two after the current one. Wizardry. Wizardries from 1981. Microsoft Flight Simulator 1.0. Well, this list doesn't say the actual name. The actual name. A fun fact about the Wolfenstein series: it wasn't originally a first-person shooter thing. It was from the early '80s. To quote Den Geek's article, 15 1980s PC games that were ahead of their time. The URL has a typo. Long before the zombies, Mecha Hitler appearances, trips to Venus, and the improbable decapitation survival of protagonists, Wolfenstein was an early pioneer in more realistic stealth games. Yes, the first Wolfenstein game looked incredibly basic, but the actual gameplay was surprisingly deep. As an Allied prisoner, you need to get through dozens of procedurally generated rooms to escape the Nazis, but instead of just avoiding guards, you get them to surrender, even if your gun is out of ammo. Sneaky. Or sneak past them using stolen uniforms. Even though Wolfenstein went on to change gears dramatically to become an immensely successful first-person shooter series, the influence of this first game in the series can still be seen in series like Metal Gear Solid and Assassin's Creed, as well as pretty much every annoying, unnecessary stealth section in games of other genres. Yeah. Sorry, just got distracted by something. Um, yes. Sorry. Um, yeah, no viewers. Great, great. Uh, alright, alright. Just trying to think of what games was to have this version of Scott the Bus talk about next. Let's see here. Scott? No, not Scott the Bus. 80s, late 1980s, not 1890s, 1980s computer games. Hmm. Retro Dodo. Road Runner 1983. Years. Mule 1983 again. Elite 1984. Literally 1984. Populous 1989. The Ancient Art of War 1984. The Ancient Art of War. tell one of the most intriguing game covers we've ever seen, which is just Japan, maybe not Japanese, some Asian countries' art from classical periods, I think. This is one for all the strategists out there, like Risk Crossbook Advanced Force Crossbook Fire, 1984. Sid Meier's Pirates, 1987. Alright, very storyline oriented game. Quest at the Avatar. Might still be a bit early. 1985. I recently don't know when in the year it released. SimCity, 1989. Castle Wolfenstein, 1981. Maniac Mansion, 1987. Hmm. Alright. We're spelling that wrong. No, we aren't. Okay. And you may be asking, oh, yes, please. Can you already talk about adventure? Hmm. Let's picture. Which means it's first on. Which means it's first on the chopping block. Sid Meier's Pirates. He wants to play a video game, but when he wants to play a video game, but look like even more of a nerd doing so. Book and game. It's a pretty damn good book. Hmm. 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 It's a good story and narrative, and overall I would rather play Distant Starlight than Distant Starflight. Sorry, tired. Uh, memorize all of the commands. We'll constantly look at a guidebook. Constantly look. Once we constantly look at a guidebook. Okay. Feel like a bit of a chore at times. Of a chore at times. Alright, we'll be right back. We're gonna have an idle meeting for a second. Hold on. We'll be right back. Back. Hey, we're back. We're back. We're back. Oh, Maury, you are watching. Oh, well, I guess you're just listening while you're doing something else. It's just that it says we have 0 viewers, which is weird. Oh, wait, that's for the wrong stream. That's the wrong stream. The live one. Yes. Yes. 7 views. No concurrent viewers. Weird. Okay. Yes. Hi, Maury. But yes. Still writing here. I've been here the whole time. Game Changers, the show where the game changes every show. Well, almost every show. Well, the only way to win is by learning. The only way to learn is by playing, and the only way to begin is by beginning. Hello. Let's come. I feel like it's a truth now. So then let's. Why why do we keep making typos that are so obvious to us the moment we look at what we wrote? Why this is stuck in sequels to this day. Then let's next step. Definitely. Guidebook. So I'm streamlining the various commands. Taking the whole thing. Whole thing separate to parse. Cool. Remove italics now. Yeah. Overall, we got. Oh, right. We used the wheel moment. Okay, let's see why I get this is still getting sequels to this day, but those games also improve on streamlining the various commands and make it the whole thing. Hmm. Hmm. Overall, though, I'd still rather play this than. Hmm. 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 Yeah, I'm a cool kid. Yeah, I'm a cool kid. I play games that suck. Mm. Alright, when was the first Madden NFL game? First Madden game, 1988. John Madden Football, 1988. You might not know the weird story of the very first John Madden football game. The game that John Madden himself influenced heavily has a more interesting story behind it than you'd think. From its debut on the Apple II to its more arcade-style Sega Genesis port. The very first game in the Madden NFL franchise came out 30 years ago, but it's not the game that many remember as being the first. 30 years ago, starting in 2018. Right, so it was released in 1988. But it's not the game that many remember as being the first. The 1990 Sega Genesis release of John Madden Football was the one that popularized the game, but it wasn't the first. The actual game was 2 years prior on the Apple II computer system, and it looked way different than the franchise looks now. The original game in 1988 was much more focused on the strategies and intricacies of football compared to the arcade style of play in the Genesis release. It took 3 years to develop. It has its roots in tabletop gaming and stat tracking. Very nice. Madden himself was insistent that the game be a cerebral approach to the game of football. There were aspects of strategy that the franchise to this day does not offer anymore. Well, that's going to change. Oh, Maury. Do you want to see a preview for what our next stream is probably going to be? We're downloading it right now, but our next stream, we're going to be playing Mouthwashing. We've heard good things about it. We're going to try it out at our next stream. So, here's hoping it's good. Probably is, but you know. Anyways, let's continue writing. Now that our sneak preview is out of the way. Okay. No. No. Okay. Nine. Mhm. 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 Right. And That is. Uh, 10. As a game with a much focus on strategy. On the strategic side of game with a much higher focus on football is a game with much higher focus on the side of American football. Definitely influenced by Madden. That's good. Arcade style scene. The original 1980. Oh, we have to build a net. Home computer game. I'm gonna grab it because then I'll get the most up-to-date software to run on. If you get that some games have content like super complex ones for the ones that need a mouse. Suspend this video dogpile on computer games for being wrong. Being wrong, even though they are. So let's take a look. However, many people still wanted to play a game in the comfort of their own home without losing $30 worth of quarters to Frogger. Instead, they wanted to spend $30 up front for unlimited Frogger. Now that is what we in the business call economics. That they would play for less time. Bring in video games. So, since they need a way to get into toy aisle to hate the whole video games are dead thing, but the NES ended up helping gaming as a whole in the long run. For computer games specifically, it led to a lot of boys getting jealous about not having a home console. Because that, a lot of early Nintendo games that feature such feminine things as overweight plumbers and ghost hunting. Instead, boys wanted to play the manliest games available, so they would, well, causing to start breaking code. So they would boot up their PCs to play certified classes like King Starflight. Starflight is to this day considered a classic. Sure, it hasn't aged all that great unless you like the sound of the electronic screaming Geiger counters, but it was ahead of its time in a number of ways, mostly in terms of its storytelling and how it used its plans as a precursor to open world gaming. How much influenced later computer games, not to mention the multiple endings. Melted games that played exactly the same. When it played, yeah, well, this game is a powerhouse in terms of what it wanted to inspire, no doubt. And playing it today is a slog. It's so slow. It sounds like what happens in my dreams when I eat too much cheese before bed. And if I don't have my nightly block of cheese, I will die. And it barely has graphics. So yeah, big hit for this time, playing it today is abysmal. Thankfully, this game has a far more positive impact than its actual gameplay. Inspired a lot of games that came after it, like Oculon, Prospero, and Zippy's Nut Dash. Okay, maybe not that last one. The Starflight still has one hell of a legacy behind it, which means it's first on the chopping block. Then, of course, there are games that are extremely wordy. And you may be asking, hey Scott, yes person I'll never meet? Didn't you already talk about text adventure games earlier? Well, yes, but Sid Meier's Pirates has pictures. Sid Meier's Pirates. Well, Sid Meier's Pirates, when you want to play a video game but look like even more of a nerd doing so. To be fair here, while this game's more book than game, it's a pretty damn good book. It has a good story and narrative. You know, the choices in it actually matter. And overall, I would rather play this than Starflight. So having to memorize all the commands or constantly look at a guidebook can feel like a bit of a chore at times. Still couldn't to see why this is still getting sequels to this day, but those games also improve and streamline the various commands and make things so much parse. Overall, though, I'd still rather play this than Lodge of Madden. Yeah, sports games for well, Lodge of sports game. It's for computers. Hmm. For HC. Yeah. Actually, important question. Yeah, it was Ian. Good to know. Good to know. We got that right. Okay, good, good. Yes, great. Good job, us. Yes, 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 yes. Good job. It's ridiculous. Test your scourge. Oh, come on. Hmm. Yes. Hmm. Some things never change. Things in our timeline. Oh, anymore, you're now counting as a concurrent viewer. Weird. Okay, let's see here. Backyard baseball. Wonder if you can hear our fingers and wrist popping there. We're gonna have to talk to our doctor about a lot. A lot. Exactly. Oh, great. Good. We aren't able to snap crackle pop Rice Krispies. Here, the snap crackle pop of the Geiger. But well, just distracting ourselves from Ryan for a second. Here, we did have to, like, our regular mic we're using isn't working for some reason. Not sure why, but it isn't. So we're using the built-in laptop on our computer, which explains why the audio sounds different and probably worse. Hopefully worse. A friend of ours spent good money on this microphone. It better be better than what our computer's built in with. We just realized we put on background music. Well, background ambience. Even though we aren't wearing headphones, so That audio is probably doubling over. At the very least, we can be heard loud and clear. We can tell that much. Anyways. Well, be shovel. The term wouldn't be shovelware, would it? Well, it could still be. Junk food games. We'll say junk food games because we like that term. Sometimes you just gotta do things because they're fun. Sure. Okay, sweet God was funny. No one came up with it. Doesn't like the one came up with it. Me too. Your head in the gutter, your brain on the wall, and the honest where the heart is. You ain't harmless, but you're heartless. It's the safest on the market, but it's fly now or die. The birdie you're not alone. Oh, wait. We mix up the lines. It's breathe out your incisors, live on white wine and Pfizer. You don't look like Survivor. It's fine now or die. Okay, hold on, have to reset our model. We got it a bit out of whack. There we go. Nope, come. Since Nintendo was aiming for market growth, aiming for market growth. Mm-hmm. Looks like they're all getting they flocked to resulting in hmm? Thank you, Maury. Thank you very much. You're a good friend. Uh, yeah. Let's see here. Three, four. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Bigger deal. I hope you go to sleep. Good luck with all right. Thank you. Love you too. Bye. What about that cutesy little bye? Do we play it up because there are people around, or are we just naturally just that sleeked? Not sure. It could be either or, honestly. Computer slows up change, something games whole being up to your deal. Hmm. We've actually gotten a good chunk more done, which is good because we honestly had no idea what we were going to do with this. But that's a good amount. Might post this update. Now we have to shift the focus back to Nintendo. Ah, alright. Alright, first we have to finish this. Mm. PC games instead of just computer games. Oh, sorry, that's AI. Oh no. Right, can't loop. Like Super Baseball. We'll just make up one. Mm, means people will beat the here who have no idea what they do. Mm, while having no idea what they're doing. Bunch of this is what that feels like. So this is what that feels like. Oh, sorry, forgot to mention that we had to get up to get something. Sorry. Sorry for the dead air. Okay. What do we try and pastiche next? Honestly, I think we should call it a night. We're going to post this to the brainstorming channel we have. So yeah. So here we go. We're gonna post this. In the meantime, we hope you enjoyed our little stream. We hope you enjoyed our little stream. And we hope to see you next time. This has been the conclusion of our midnight feature presentation. It's always midnight somewhere, but tonight's presentation is over. Thank you, and good night.